In the past year, the NFU has continued to advocate for strong communities, sound policies, and sustainable farms. Collectively, we have been vocal and seen some major wins, some of which came following years of work. We continued advocacy around the Site C Dam in British Columbia. At Minister Bibeau's request, we organized a roundtable of NFU women to inform her about the unique childcare needs of farmers and rural families, and won a big step in the 40-year fight for universal childcare with $30 billion in funding announced in the last federal budget. We continued to call for a halt to the liquidation of Crown land in Saskatchewan, and we opposed rule changes in Manitoba that will make it harder for young ranchers to get access to Crown land for grazing. We added our voice to the campaign to protect the eastern slopes of Alberta's Rockies and their watershed from open pit coal mining. In PEI, NFU members have relentlessly defended the spirit of the Provincial Lands Act and have opposed efforts by agribusiness to overturn restrictions on deep well irrigation. We advocated for a national public transit service after Greyhound shut down its Canadian routes. The NFU in Ontario held virtual land linking and farmland conservation workshops across the province to help address the land access challenges for young and new farmers. And we began looking into alternative land tenure options, and we'll launch a webinar series to learn more about them in the new year with our Farmland Action Committee. We launched a multi-stream educational series called NF University to enrich the foundation of knowledge our members can build upon. Manitoba members denounced Bill 57, the Anti-Democratic Protection of Critical Infrastructure Act. In October, the incoming premier withdrew this widely opposed bill. One item that's more to do with the internal community of the NFU that should be mentioned is that the National Board held a great anti-oppression and inclusivity training at the beginning of 2021, facilitated by one of the founders of the Idle No More movement. The NFU community is also looking to grow. The BIPOC Working Group, which was inaugurated last year to be a gathering space for members and prospective members who are Indigenous, Black, and people of color, are organizing and advocating for formal status within the NFU as an advisory committee, like the Women's and Youth Advisory Committees. We generally refer to this as a caucus, and delegates to this year's National Convention will be voting on a constitutional amendment proposing the formal adoption of a BIPOC caucus within the NFU's governance structure. We participated in public consultations with Health Canada and the CFIA to oppose the deregulation of gene-edited plants and seeds. We sent all agriculture ministers the NFU's priorities for the next agricultural policy framework. We provided input to the Canada Grain Act review process, supporting the Canadian Grain Commission, and called for a reversal of recent changes that allow US grain to be imported for re-export as if it were Canadian. The NFU in Ontario consulted with and mobilized farmers to participate in public consultations to expand and protect the Southern Ontario Greenbelt. The NFU in Ontario also published Reframing the Farm Labor Crisis in Ontario, a report focused on the labor issues on small and mid-sized farms. We joined thousands of allies from around the world in taking part in the People's Counter Mobilization to protest the corporate capture of food systems. This was provoked by the United Nations Food System Summit and their alliance with the agribusiness lobbying group CropLife. We have long called as well for an end to the margin cap on agri-stability and welcomed news that it is finally being removed. And we continue to push for returning the margin loss trigger back to 85% from 70%. When New Brunswick banned migrant farm workers in response to the pandemic, we made a strong statement in support of migrant workers' access to jobs and that they provide highly skilled labor within the food system. The ongoing work of our Migrant Workers Solidarity Working Group resulted in our invitation to participate in the federal government's consultation on new regulations for the Seasonal Agricultural Foreign Workers Program. We welcomed the Supreme Court of Canada's decision to confirm the federal government's jurisdiction to take strong national leadership action to curb greenhouse gas emissions and safeguard the future for all Canadians. which is a position we supported as interveners in the constitutional challenge case. We also published Imagine If, a vision of a near zero emission farm and food system for Canada that shows how emissions reduction in farm and food systems can truly be part of a bright and positive future. We highlighted the impacts of this summer's severe drought and called for emergency help for farmers as well as effective climate action to prevent future worsening conditions. We organized and raised funds to send a delegation of NFU members to Glasgow for COP26. They brought farmers' voices to the conference itself and joined with civil society groups participating outside the official venues. We met with Ag Minister Bibeau about climate issues on our farms and the climate solutions that we need. And we also convened a roundtable discussion with her and NFU members from coast to coast. Following this, we won $350 million announced for climate solutions in agriculture, including $200 million for on-farm climate action. The NFU's work within and in support of Farmers for Climate Solutions Coalition propelled this new program. We raised concerns about drastic cuts to public agricultural services in Manitoba and urged the province to increase public extension services to help farmers deal with climate change. We also conducted a review of livestock regulations across Canada to support targeted advocacy for improved access to abattoirs. You're going to learn more about that in an exciting presentation tomorrow. We continued to defend supply management by urging MPs to support Bill C-216, which, if passed, will ban giving away any more of our market in future trade deals. We helped government understand how carbon market offset trading often serves to greenwash corporate emissions. We're also working with allies in the US and Canada to oppose the Americans' CUSMA trade challenge against our dairy system. We're defending the public interest seed system by participating in the seed regulatory modernization process and by standing up for the right to freely use farm-safe seed. We participated in the public consultation on maximum residue limits for glyphosate by submitting a brief stating our opposition to increases. Our input was part of a large public outcry that led to the ministers of 3 departments canceling the consultation and promised to bring more transparency and independent science into pesticide regulation. We participated in the Western Grains Research Foundation's 40th anniversary project to identify farmers' medium to long-term research priorities. The NFU also works with allies in networks and coalitions to strengthen the movement for a more just food and agriculture system. We continue to be an active member of Farmers for Climate Solutions. This coalition has grown to represent over 20 national and regional agricultural organizations and scored some big legislative wins for farmers and the environment this year. We're an active member of CBAN, the Canadian Biotechnology Action Network, highlighting genetic engineering's implications for farmers. We're a member of the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives Trade and Investment Research Project, working with allies to understand trade deal issues and advocate for fair trade. We're a founding member of La Via Campesina, the International Peasant and Smallholders Movement Organization. Our International Programs Committee is our liaison with the La Via Campesina, bringing NFU solidarity to allies around the world, such as our support for farmers protesting against the unjust laws in India, which I'm sure many of you noticed scored a big win this past week. As you can see, the NFU's policy work is broad and deep. This is due to our ability to see our common interests for farmers and the way that we see the range of farm types, sizes, production systems, and locations as a source of wisdom and strength. Your experience and perspectives on policy issues are our biggest assets. I would like to encourage you to get involved in the NFU's policy work in any area that interests you. We have committees or working groups on a number of issues that you're welcome to join. Just send an email or phone the national office to let them know which aspects you're interested in. And to learn more about any of the topics I've mentioned, feel free to visit our website where all of our policy briefs and reports are posted. There's a lot of information there. These are just some of the ways that NFU members and associate members have advocated for your policy goals over this past year. The saying, "it takes a village," really resonates, since no single one of us has the capacity for all of this work. But if we each do our small part, we can make a difference. And of course, the NFU has been hard at work to amplify the signal. We've seen increasing coverage in mainstream and agricultural media, as well as online with our expanding social media presence. All of this catches the eyes of the decision makers in government whose attention we really do need to catch. Anytime you come across a news story, the e-news bulletin in your inbox contains a listing for an upcoming webinar your neighbors might like, or you see a social media post that your community or network should be paying attention to, please share. That's a way that you can help to, increase the attention to the movement as well. So thank you very much. And I hope that you enjoy setting the next year's policy direction for the organization throughout our debates this week. Thank you.